I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions had an echo.
Welcome back to the NutriMedical Report, and we really appreciate all your support of NutriMedical by purchasing all your wellness needs at NutriMedical.com. That's 888-212-8871. You can order online 24/7. You'll see also we're going to be doing a lot more work over at clayandIron.com, including a lot of the audio archive over there, a lot of new material. And John and Ann, you're available. So, John, tell us the latest update you have from Japan and what's going on.
Well, a friend of mine just returned from Japan the last few days. She said that the Japanese government is right now making preparations for mass evacuations due to what they believe will be the not-too-distant future of the meltdown of Fukushima reactor number 4.
Right. So, in other words, what we researched with Chris Harris and many other nuclear experts, with your intelligence reports and with a lot of prayer and, literally visions that I've had, we know specifically that the next major burp, and it's, by the way, not the end. This is the beginning of the end, not the end of this. This is the next major burp of radiation that will cause an evacuation and finally raise it to the level of consciousness. When the evacuation does start in a wider area, this will collapse the European and the world economy. And again, it's all by design, because they could have dealt with this properly. It's all by design. And then once this happens, it'll open up the door for a whole new financial order, which is why the meeting in Bilderberg really is to say, once we've gone through the ceremony of the Phoenix, or Pahanuk, the ancient Sumerian ceremony of the death of civilization, which they're trying to promote, and Obama is literally, if you want to call it, the dark master of destruction of America. And he's been bringing in policies and even promulgated wars now, saying that he's going to respond to NATO and the United Nations. He's not acting as our president. He is a illegal alien usurper-in-chief, and he's presiding, doing nothing to stop Fukushima. And when the evacuation happens and that radiation cloud lands on America, we have no data. We're having no data, not even the University of California, Berkeley are reporting. And when the collapse happens, Americans are going to finally realize that they've been had by, quote, the garbage news network like CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, that only here on the Genesis Network, only, and the best reports are here on this show, are we getting the data out to tell people that disaster is not only coming, it's here, and has been trickling by Chinese water torture of this radiation, and we have massive radiation burps and bioaccumulation that's going to occur over the next number of years. You're going to not only have stickers on your food that may contain GMO, quote, you'll have a sticker, may contain Fukushima. And people think that's a joke. It's not.
Dr. DEAGLE, another one of my sources said his wife, it's a call I got last night, his wife works for FEMA, and the FEMA employees are getting radiation mitigation information internally. It's not necessarily being distributed to anybody else, but it's the nature of big organizations to take care of their own people. And apparently that's what's going on inside FEMA, is they're distributing material to their own people right now.
Yeah. In other words, and we have the radiation kits. We have, of course, our core radiation kit, which is 2 NIOSH N95 masks. And by the way, don't fly unless you take a radiation detector. When I fly next Thursday, my Inspector Plus is coming with me. And when I take my Inspector Plus, it's going to be basically flying with me, and it's going to tell me if in that airplane, if there's radiation levels. I'm going to give distribution masks to myself, my wife, and my daughter, Kelsey, that will be flying with me to Portland. We're going up to visit our son for a couple of days over the weekend. And by the way, we will be doing the first hour of the show, and you, John, and Ann, and we'll be hosting hour 3 next week. So you won't even have Dr. D. You'll have even more fun with less interruptions, and I'm sure that you'll have a very power-packed hour. People need to realize this is not a joke. We're not doing this for entertainment. You and I could do other things with my life rather than having to tell people, quote, bad news continuously. And to be honest with you, the level of response, I've gotten emails from Australia, New Zealand, and Europe and elsewhere. Oh, yes, we're listening. I don't want to just hear the odd person is what I call the stellar person that's listening. I want numbers. I want to know why the response is so anemic to this word. Why, when we know that the numbers listening supposedly are in the 6 million plus range, why we're not getting a bigger response? How come the regular news media, and they've covered on a few of the news reports, even on the Alex Jones show, why is there not more response? People aren't getting ready. They have no idea that if this happens in Japan, Europe is going to crash because the second largest creditor nation is going under. This is exactly what happened after the earthquake in 1929. Most people don't realize the history was Japan had a major earthquake, pulled back their their creditor money from Japan, from Europe and the West, right before the stock market crashed in 1929. 6 months, I think it was 8 months before they had a major earthquake. The same thing is happening again. And when this happens, Europe, now they just downgraded the debt, the Fitch did, for Spain, their credit rating to triple B, which is only 2 notches above junk. So now they cannot ever afford to pay off their debt, so Spain is done. Now, Spain is not 2% of the European economy, it's 25%. That means Europe is toast. It's only a matter of literally, you know, they say the camel's back. Well, the camel's back is already making creaking sounds, and the straw that's going to break it is the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant cooling pool number 4 up on stilts at 100 feet up. And when that crashes, when those fuel rod assemblies blow off their top and we have radiation clouds, and the Japanese have to start mass evacuations, because now they're even selling cell phones in Japan with radiation detectors in them. So the Japanese are not stupid. They're getting madder than hell, and they're finally waking up, and we have Japanese audience listening, and a lot of them are quietly leaving the area, but the ones that are staying are getting radiation protection. They're trying to get themselves protected. And when they realize just how bad it's going to get, it's going to cause panic. And people don't realize it's going to cause panic, not just there. In the midst of this, Obama's going to try to profit from the panic, too, because he's done. He should already be in the process of being impeached, let alone getting ready for another election. This monster, this narcissist, this baseball card-playing fool that literally drools over baseball cards of who he's going to kill, and I even read the report from Joel Scalzo, he's only peripherally involved. No, he's not peripherally involved, Joel. I have my own military contacts. This monster determines exactly who's going to be killed and when. And just a week ago, they killed a so-called Al-Qaeda person with their drone attacks. And then when they had the funeral, he killed all the mourners. So this is the kind of maniac we have as our president. And if you don't think that they're incurring wrath of the Pakistanis that have now increased the fees to get our troops their supplies by something like 300 or 600%, people don't get this in the news. The news doesn't talk about the fact our troops can't even get supplies now in their war theater, and now they're pulling back from Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda's going crazy. We beat them, we beat them. Yes, they did. We don't want to admit the fact that because of our stupid policy like Vietnam, we are beaten in Afghanistan. And our withdrawal now is an example of a multi-trillion-dollar war where we're now beaten because of bad policy, because we didn't rebuild waterways, schools, hospitals, irrigation ditches, got rid of the poppy crops, and then if we stop the borders and stop the illegal trade of drugs, including the Taliban funding the material to be made in China, distributed by Iranians, and built by the Afghanistanis, the IEDs, our soldiers wouldn't come back with arms and legs blown off. Everything we've done has been done to guarantee failure and massive debt.
Absolutely. Well, I got another update, and that's the fact that earlier this week, 200 Russian troops arrived at Fort Hood, Texas.
Yeah, this is not surprising. The very minimum report I heard was there were 600 there, and by the way, they're not going home. The reports are probably tens of thousands. At any one time, and I've known since the early 90s, there's anywhere from 600,000 to 1.2 million foreign troops from former CIS, that's Soviet nation, Eastern Bloc countries, being trained on American soil, as well as Norwegians and Germans and Brits and Aussies being trained on American weapons and tactics. Why? Why would we train foreigners on our American weapons and tactics unless they're planning on deploying them in America because they know our own troops won't shoot at Americans to get in the rail car or to get in the truck if there's so-called martial law that the government wants to install? Because if they did, they know that our troops and our military would shoot at those people, and even the so-called tiny select services like they did in Tiananmen Square, they had to get a special force to enforce Tiananmen because they were afraid that the regular Chinese military would shoot back at their generals and frag them. That's the facts. The fact is they were deploying these people like these Russian so-called special forces, Spetsnaz types. They're from Mongolia. They're Muslims because they know that if they actually deploy them in America, they'll kill Americans if we don't obey their orders.
Oh, yes, they will. They wouldn't hesitate a moment.
And guess what? We won't hesitate killing them. How's that? And on the air, I'm saying, shoot down the damn Predator drones, and if you see foreigners on American soil walking with a fully automatic weapon, they are easy targets. Because our government should not authorize foreigners carrying weapons when American citizens in many states can't even carry a non-concealed carry weapon. And in the recent story we have reviewed about a young man who was former military Marine got shot down in Arizona and Las Vegas just 2 years ago, and they recalled his story. Just because he was in a Costco store and he had an argument with a guard, and he called the police, and they shot him dead, hit him in the chest and heart, and then shot him multiple times afterward. That's the kind of country you have when you have fools like Obama and Hillary that want to take our small arms fire from the United Nations to take our guns away, and they want to deploy military from foreign powers to crush the population. Well, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. Could not agree more.
Not going to happen. Might as well take notice. I don't care how much laws you pass. It's finished. We're done with you. Back in a moment with more with John Moore and Morrison coming up at the bottom of the hour. Robert Felix. It's going to be a hot and powerful hour.
Well, that was Dr. DEAGLE's NUTRIMEDICAL report. I'm Diana, and this is one for the record. Today is June 8th, 2012. It is Friday evening. And here is some of your update for today. The reason why I blank out the screen and don't put pictures, you might as well listen to it like a radio station and get some stuff done around the house. You know, don't stare at a screen that just rotates pictures on a loop. You know, so I figured you can go do stuff and listen to this. I'm going to have to do something about the sound. I am aware that the sound, now that something has changed on YouTube, that even though I'm on a different browser with Dr. DEAGLE, it's still coming out with, there's like some kind of a delay. So it's echoing and you're hearing like blah, 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 blah in the background. I apologize for that. I might have to pre-record it and then play it because I don't understand the echoing that's going on. Alrighty then. I don't know what's going on with the pets. Get out of there! Get out of there! Ugh. Alrighty then. Let's move on. Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. A lot of crazy weather today in central Florida, the Space Coast. It's a lot of rain, thunderstorms, wind. Starting to flood a little bit. Alright, that's what's going on with the weather here. Alright, Extinction Protocol 2012. One death reported in E. coli outbreak that spreads to 6 states. That's out of Atlanta. They're saying it's Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, and California. A child in Louisiana died after being infected, officials said. Alright. Now what's going on? Pets are chasing. Stop it! Stop! Get over here. Get over here. Yeah. What you got over there? You stop. Stop it. Pets are going wild because of the change in the weather. Sit down. Please, thank you. Just stay there. You're a good dog. Strong activity reported at Italy's Stromboli volcano. Hazard, the Extinction Protocol Guide to Risk Mitigation. U.S. experiences as warmest spring on record.
Hazmat team.
Okay, he's back. Here we go.
I was at Point Man when we did these war game simulations for the U.S. federal government. And the fact is they never followed any of my recommendations, which is to have a air filtration system, a chain of custody for pathogens in every aircraft. And now to check every aircraft should be done with a chain of custody for radiation and a radioisotope analysis with what's called neutron spectroscopy. None of these things are happening. None of the reports are happening at any altitude to see if there's a radiation plume at a specific altitude. And I guarantee you that the Alaska Airlines stewards and stewardesses are not having dry cleaning problems. I'm going to find out. Now, if we fly through a radiation plume like I got about a month and a half ago, I had a report sent to me with an actual photo of the inspector plus, this gentleman that flew through 30,000 feet over Washington State, and the inspector went well over 1,000 counts per minute, and it's normally 25 to 50 CPM. I'm going to be slapping on a NIOSH mask on myself, my wife, and my daughter. To the consternation, I'm sure, the freaked out screeches of airline stewards and stewardesses is, what am I doing? I said, my doctor told me to do it. And he said, who's your doctor? I said, me. I'm an activist in the Academy of Environmental Medicine. I'm not going to put up with crap. I'm not going to put up with them flying through radiation plumes and not even having an air filtration system, which includes a 3-stage carbon filter, HEPA filter, and buckyball, nanoparticle filter. We're not seeing any of these things being done. We have no chain of custody. We have nothing. And I don't care if it's an extra $5 on an airline ticket. Damn it, why aren't they doing it? Especially now when these radiation plumes are coming across their airspace. We see nothing. And I talk about concrete recommendations, not garbage, like all these remonstrations by so-called experts that go on various radio and television shows, or the snooze media. I call it the lame brain media. They don't have any background or radiation credentials or anything, and they come on and they remonstrate of, we think they should do something. Well, we'll tell them specifically what the hell they should be doing, but they're doing nothing because it's to their advantage to do nothing, and that includes the Obama prancing around Hollywood getting more gay and lesbian money to support his candidacy so he can kill more of us and support destruction of the family. So, if people detect I'm a little bit more angry than usual today, well, I got a damn good reason for it. And when people don't listen to me, whether it's personal consultations I do for people, some of them celebrities, or people that are just regular people, or people that take my information and then don't proceed with getting the nutraceuticals and the free advice from us, and they have harm come their way, it grieves me. It grieves me. It grieves me greatly to see this. And we don't see anything happening. We don't see anybody responding to Ambassador Murata. We don't see anybody responding in the Congress and Senate to Dianne Feinstein, and Senator Wyden's going to the Fukushima Daiichi, and Senator Wyden is still freaked out. Senator Wyden, we need to contact you. We need to get you on the program. You know that you're still freaked out because you know that this giant dock just landed on the coast in, I believe, in Oregon. I mean, a giant concrete and steel dock lands in your place in Oregon. They say, well, I guess we'll pay to get rid of it. It's not radioactive. It's like, well, you hope it's not too radioactive. What kind of detectors are you using? But nevertheless, 5 million tons of this crap is going to end up here in America, and that's only the material. The constant surge of radiation is going to make our crops sequentially, year by year, more and more radioactive from bioaccumulation. And
by the way, Dr. Bill,
Yes.
Bill, they asked the federal government if they were going to clean up the trash that's being dumped along the West Coast,
Right.
and they said no, it's up to the states.
Yeah, that's disgusting. See, there's more of the garbage from Obama. And, there's a report here from the Technorati. It says Fukushima Reactor 4 release would doom Western United States. It's not just dooming the Western U.S. I mean, the fact is this radiation plume, and they have these little models that don't even make sense. The radiation plume isn't just a plume that comes up like a big, like a spray over your garden. It's a plume that may often hold together quite tightly at a specific altitude, and it can go over the pole. It doesn't have to go, quote, west and then turn south toward California. It can go over the pole and land in England. It can land in Norway. It can land in Central Europe. It can cross over the Alaska or Canada and end up in the Midwest or down in Florida. And it can also get in high altitude in these special, we call high altitude rivers that have hundreds of times more water per day than the water that move in the Amazon River and carry it south to the southern hemisphere. So these simplistic models are stupid because they're not based on data. We need data. We're not getting it from anywhere, and whenever I request data, just like I've requested for now years, many years, data on the World Trade Center complex, trying to get radioisotope analysis of material I have sitting literally in my studio desk, right from blown right across to an apartment right across the street from the World Trade Center complex when it was demolished by nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons, in a chain of pearls, plus the superthermated cutter charges at the outside. I can't get any labs to do it, and they threaten that if I even request a test to the U.S., British, or Canadian lab, I'll be arrested by the Department of Defense and their functionaries, the FBI here. That's what they've told me. If you ask for the specific kinds of tests you want, we're arresting your tailed eagle. Come on and arrest me. I'm requesting the damn test, and I can't even get the material to them because they won't request it. Even my old alma mater, where I did my chemistry training years ago, I can't get them to do the type of testing to identify this. We don't get an analysis of isotopes in the fish. They're not even going to tell us, the Canadian government, what fish and where and what the results are going to be. They say, well, we're going to test it. They'll just tell us, oh, we tested it, it's fine, keep on eating your tuna. Come on. This is sickening, it's aggravating, and the fact is they aren't going to, on top of the fact that nurses work in the ICN intensive care nursery, you're going to say, gee, we're getting an awful lot of dead kids. You're working on senior citizens and say, oh my gosh, funny, last Thursday night, we had a lot of people that packed it in. They were 80 years of age or 75 or 45, but they had a major traumatic accident. That's because of this major radiation stressor. It'll push you over the edge if you're hanging on by your fingernails in the intensive care unit. We're going to see a lot of cancer, a lot of strokes, a lot of birth defects, a lot of autism, a lot of everything. In the midst of a healthcare crisis where Obama's getting rid of our top-level healthcare system and substituting Nazi death panels. This is just nuts. And I don't have a lot of faith that our Supreme Court's going to fix it. So let's go on. And what do you see happening with earthquakes and volcanoes and all the other things that are into this mix of disaster, this timeline?
Well, we are going to see, we are expecting, that earthquake that occurred out there by Japan is an 8.8.
Whoa, that's a biggie. Is that the recent one that just happened a week ago?
No, a year ago. And
Yeah, the one in
Chiba,
near Chiba Prefecture was a 6.3 or 6.4, and its effect down in near Fukushima was 5.2. That 5.2 is literally every 3 to 4 days. Albany is a 6 level right at the site, and that reactor 4 cooling pool is going to fall. That's the report from their experts.
well, we're expecting a 7.8 within the next 20 years. We know that's going to happen.
No, not 20 years. What they tell me is the likelihood of a level of an earthquake large enough to knock over the reactor cooling pool is a virtual guarantee within the next 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months for that cooling pool to fall with a large enough earthquake, and the neutron annealing of the metals, the material, and the seals that are bursting. And now the 2 pumps failed there, and reacting cooling.
All right, and we're back. Let's see what else I can report on before he comes back. It's everything I talked about, isn't it? He has same opinions. That's all I know. You know, once you're medically trained, it's like it's not hard to figure it out. Let's see. Also today, the climate. U.S. experienced its warmest spring on record. Awakening earthquake swarm reported at San Pedro Pallado volcano. Eruption would be first in recorded history. Wow, and that's in Chile. Mega boom of tiny plants under Arctic sea ice tied to climate change, largest ever seen on planet. Okay. Australia. This is yesterday. They had a tornado, and it went through Perth's northern suburbs. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Everything else is from yesterday. All right. Let's get rid of this one. Let's go to SOT real quick. See if he's back. No, he's not back yet. Alrighty then. Hopefully you caught my update. I'm wondering if he's going to talk about that, whatever happened yesterday. There's gold in... Oh, here we go. It just moved. This is SOT.net. My goodness. There's gold in that thar whale poop. There's gold in whale poop. So sperm whales have the largest heads in the animal kingdom. I don't know where they're talking about their heads. Not all sperm whales produce this poop. Somehow they produce extraordinary valuable poop. I don't know. Weird. Huge cloud hole photographed by satellite. Developing nuclear cover-up, extreme radiation levels in Indiana prompt EPA censorship. DHS hazmat team. Ah, heads up. Heads up. They're saying it's a cover-up. Heads up. Well, mainland Australia rattled by 10th tremor in less than 7 days. No, it's not back yet. Okay. Whale poop. Must be good fertilizer. Nutrients. Okay, let's check out the watchers. Let's get it lined up at least. Okay, he should be coming back.
553.
No, not yet. Nope. Sorry if it echoes. It's like a delay. YouTube has. That's terrible. It's real bad. Heads up, YouTube. That's real bad. Okay, the watchers. Eruption of Colombia Navarro de Ruiz volcano likely within days or weeks.
And
he's back.
You know, all of these things are to show that the real history of things that's going on is completely different. I pulled up some documents about a Mr. I guess a senior engineer. His name was Ragsdale. And I'll get into more details on this at another time, but in fact, our nuclear program was in collaboration with the Germans and the Japanese, and the first nuclear test was not a bomb drop over Nagasaki and Hiroshima. It was over the Bikini Atoll in 1939 with German scientists and Japanese scientists. The Japanese had 5 cyclotrons making nuclear isotopes. The Germans had developed a technique using what's called scalar frequencies with Nikola Tesla's type technology to use what's called scalar ionic separation to create at relatively low energies extremely high grade plutonium, which is made by neutron insertion to create these heavy isotopes. The German scientists were working in collaboration, and as part of the Operation Paperclip, our supply of plutonium, which we later dropped in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, was in collaboration with the Germans as part of Operation Paperclip to bring out 100,000 technicians and German scientists to America. As part of the deal, they would hand over their nuclear material to our American teams, who later would drop it on Japan, who was working before the Second World War in collaboration with America on these nuclear projects. So the history that you think happens is not the truth. And we're going to bring on other experts to talk about this, but that's why when we see Fukushima going on, this is all by design. The pink element in the room that's 3 million tons is in fact not that Fukushima happened, and some fools try to say it was caused by a nuclear bomb at the bottom of the great, the Sendai Ridge out there, causing this superquake. You're at earthquake central. The earthquakes are increasing because we're moving through a period of time-space at the galactic plane. It's going to increase earthquakes 500% since last year, and they're going to increase considerably more. In fact, it's predicted that next year, 2013, a kill shot is very likely to hit the power sources across the planet. We know also that Sendai, Japan is probably going to pop the next major burp of radiation, and that's, by the way, the not last. And people need to realize food supplies worldwide are going to crash. It's going to be very difficult to get non-radioactive food. People need to realize that this is tied directly to the collapse in the commodities market, the collapse in the Japanese economy, the collapse of Europe with the interlocking debt, which is the mechanism to bring in the mark of the beast. And guess where the mark of the beast is going to come from? America. And that's why people think, oh no, it's going to come from Europe, from Brussels, it's going to come from Beijing, China, or Russia. Wrong-o. And the Russians, by the way, have got the Chinese totally on their string, and so they have all these so-called Sovietized Muslim countries around them and the Arab countries. The Russians are the bipolar opposite, the beast dictator, Mr. Vladimir Putin, who's trying to look like a big hero there, and we've got Obama, the snake in the grass Obama. That's how bad it is. And in the next year, unless the trajectory changes, I cannot see Mitt Romney getting elected. I think that here's a timeline. I will repeat it for those who haven't heard before. I expect a major release of radiation and evacuation in the next month or two in Japan. I expect the economy in Europe to hit a crisis this summer, and by early fall we'll have a bank holiday from 5 days to 2 weeks in America, and in a sense a form of martial law. It won't be martial law. It'll be maybe foreign troops at banks with holding air machine guns and black ski masks, so we won't know if they're foreigners, like Mongolian Spetsnaz, or they'll be American Special Forces. That's what their game is. They'll have a black ski mask guy. You won't know if he speaks Russian or whatever hell he is. And that's what their game is to make you very afraid and don't come against the authorities, whoever the hell they are. And then what they want to do is bring in a world system where they're going to bring in a partially, supposedly backed world G20 currency with American credit no longer under control of our Congress, so that our government, which basically are your lawmakers, your Congress and Senate, and your president basically determine laws that determine how money is spent. And when your money is no longer under your control but under a globalist G20 government, under new rulemaking globally, your government is vestigial. So it's Obama's job in a post-colonial world to make certain that America is no longer relevant. And he's doing a damn good job, isn't he?
Absolutely, he is, yes.
That's his job. And if he succeeds in the next term, especially if he makes more stupid appointments to the Supreme Court and the Congress don't do their job, which is to pull these Supreme Court justices, if they don't strike down Obamacare and Congress does not start removing these Supreme Court justices from the bench because of unconstitutional lawmaking or law interpretations, then Congress is basically getting exactly what they deserve. They become vestigial, meaning like a vestigial appendix. We have a vestigial government where global rulemaking, global banksters will run everything, and private property will be a thing of the past. They'll eventually push the population, when they become totally bankrupt, into highly compact cities, and Agenda 21 discussed at the Bilderberger meeting will take full effect, where they'll rewild the world, like in the 1992 Rio conference that we talked about in the past year, that the NSM 200 report of 1974 with Henry Kissinger, the reports going back 6-7 years earlier that revealed on Alex Jones' TV channel, they talk about, they were reported from the Bilderbergers. This is all real. This is not like conspiracy theory. It's disgusting for people to actually have the nerve to open the damn mouths and try to say it's a conspiracy theory when it's just a fact. And they don't have a right to the facts when the facts just speak for themselves, do they?
No, not even a little bit, no.
Yeah. So, John, where do you see this going? What's going to happen? Because we know that if Obama gets a second term, here's the agenda. They want to ram through, if not Obamacare, take it apart and put back together something which is Obamacare anyway, Obamacare 2 or Obamacare Light. Number 2, they want to put in the United Nations small arms ban. They want to get rid of our guns. Number 3, they're going to continue telling us that the economy is doing fine, although the unemployment rate, because they fiddle the statistics, is going to get worse and worse. And young people get saddled with bigger and bigger debts, so they can't literally ever get under the debt and mess and ever own a home or a car or even live and get away from their parents, even if they continue to go to school, to put off paying back their school debts. Now, I'm not a communist, but I think if you're educated, if you're qualified, you should be able to get all your education paid completely. And I don't care if you put in a percentage of it, but the idea of saddling our young people with a debt so high that they can never start a business, own a home, have a car or a family is an obscenity. And that's what's doing, is taking away our future from our next generation. That's why we're in such a mess.
I agree. Well, the powers that be know that a really bad crisis can allow them to accelerate everything they want to do exponentially. And so they'll create a crisis so they can move forward very quickly for people to accept things they would never accept otherwise.
Exactly. So I expect the crisis of this is how Obama will try to get back in, because if the elections happen tomorrow, Mitt Romney would get elected. Mitt Romney's got several problems. Firstly, a large number of the delegates are voting for Ron Paul in. Now, Ron Paul has a lot of positive things, but he has some very negative things. He believes in von Mises economics, which is Austrian royalty economics, which is the worst of what I call the feudalism of the Middle Ages. He also believes in states' rights, that states determine whether an abortion should be legal or not, and it should be a national law that we call the Defense of Life law, or personhood law, which if you kill a mother and their baby, say it's 7 months, and the baby could survive in the intensive care nursery, you have committed 2 murders, not 1. Okay? And this is an issue that was brought up in the Canadian government back about 7-8 years ago, and I actually spoke on national news about this in Canada, talking about this issue. The fact is, the Conservative government tried to bring this law forward, and the outcry from the so-called maniac, atheistic, bisexual, pedophilic left in Canada was obscene, because they didn't want to have any issue dealing with the idea of inheritable rights of a child that could survive in the intensive care nursery, because if someone killed a mother and their child...
A little side note, Dr. DEAGLE. In the state of Missouri, you're allowed to use deadly force to protect the life of an unborn child.
Exactly. Personal issues should be dealt with if Mitt Romney repents before his
Hello?
Congratulations.
Oh, and we're back. And let's move on. Spiral light seen over. Oh, sorry. We're back. Spiral light seen over the Middle East confirmed to be Russian ballistic missiles. Stop match test. And it's another spiral. Looks like that one in Norway. And baloney. These things, there's pictures on them all over the caves. The spiral pictures everywhere in ancient times. And I'm sure it wasn't a Russian ballistic missile test then either. I don't know why they keep saying that. Dust blows over Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Earthquake swarm at Chile's San Pedro volcano again. A high-pressure system spinning off the coast of Tasmania. That's where that hole in the cloud is that I mentioned before. And unexpected discovery, Arctic Ocean is richer in microscopic plants than any other ocean on Earth. And that I reported on before. So, let's see. Let's get rid of that one. Let's see if we can get on to, let's see, where are we here? Yes, let's get on to E&E News, see if there's anything new. But Dr. DEAGLE seems to be reporting on all that. See if he's back. Nope. Expecting someone to bang on the door soon, too. So I'm going to have to hurry. Or I might have to stop for a second. I have to, I'll scare him away when I said, do you want to go on the internet? They'll run away. Okay, let's see. Alrighty. E&E News. See if it's even on here from Indiana yet. And, let's see. No, analyst, Fukushima will have devastating long-term health effects. It is up to us not to accept lies minimizing radiation impact. Report, sparrow with albino head in Chiba near Tokyo. Albinism in birds common after Chernobyl, extremely rare in nature. TEPCO adds 60-ton cover on number 4 fuel pool. I wonder though, the wall is bulging. You think that might smash it down faster? Government minister suggests building sarcophagus over number 4 fuel pool just after 3/11. Magnitude 5. This is on today. Magnitude 5 quake hits off Fukushima coast. Next, what are you growling at? Ultimate irony. Prime Minister Japan must restart nuclear reactors for survival of society. Ultimate irony. Prime Minister Japan must restart nuclear reactors for survival of society. Oh. Listen to that crap. He should be indicted right away. Competent. Tiny reactor inspected, paint coming off inside. Contaminant vessel blamed on temperature and humidity increase after 3/11 quake.
Water filter.
Alright, let's see if there's anything on. That's all from yesterday. Let me see. I'm sure he's going to come back. Though, by the time I get... Let me see. Here, he's coming back.
Welcome back. I want to start off with a quick story. We have Robert Felix on the program now, and John Scott, who'll be back next week. John, Ann, and Robert, you'll be hosting the show next Friday without Dr. DEAGLE's interruptions, but I'm sure it'll be high energy, despite the lack of the D factor. A little story about running out of food. I remember back in 1987-88, I worked in central Illinois, and 97. That was at junket down in 97. I was in Central Illinois, and I remember when I worked out there in Pekin, I was the director of the Emergency Department Occupational Program. We had the second largest gas hall plant in the United States in Pekin. So one day I was driving in the spring, so miles and miles of corn. I think, gee, I'd love to buy some corn. So I went to the grocery store and I asked, is there any corn? He said, no, we don't expect to see it for another month or so. I said, what do you mean? I drove through miles and miles of corn. He said, that's genetically engineered gasohol corn. I think, damn, oh, we're going to get some. It's coming in from Indiana. I'm thinking, what? Now we're going to run out of corn. We have climate change and UV light now that's up to 12, 13, which means it's going to have crop failures. We've got drought, or in some places, and too much rain in others. And now with all these climate changes, which the idiots try to call us due to carbon credits, and I got this carbon rap I want to read here in a few minutes, but I want to hear your updates first, Robert, because I have a carbon rap from Our Lady Margaret in Australia about her kids, that the kids in the school put together, that the government sponsored, that every school and every group of children should now sing this rap song that they make up at each school. It's a little different in each one, and this rap song should to talk about the carbon cops and being carbon responsive. This is a kind of mind-altering, just like the German Hitler Youth or the communist youth in the Soviet Union or in China. This is the same like Red Army garbage that they're doing with the carbon cops in Australia. It's disgusting, and we call Jew liar Galar, you're a maniac, and you need to be removed from power. And the new people in Australia, get some guts and remove these idiots before they destroy your country. It's the best quality coal, great resources, fantastic people, but you need to have a titanium backbone transplant. Stop being idiots and get rid of Julia Gillard and these enviromaniacs, because they're not real environmentalists. They have a false dialogue, a false dialectic, and they're trying to control you and steal your resources and crush you.
Well, Dr. Bill, you talked about the climate change there, and that has certainly become a buzzword for global warming, but the Pakistani Tribune just had an article this week, and their headline said, climate change, slow melting of glaciers to delay crop sowing. And then their article goes on about talking about climate change and talking about the water flow of the rivers is 35% below what it should be, and it talks about it goes on and on and on, talking about Pakistan's 4 major crops and how the farmers are leaving their land idle because they don't have enough water, and it keeps hammering on the water shortage.
You have a point, though, making this.
Well, it's making you think it's all about global warming.
No. It's the opposite, isn't it? The water is being locked up in the glaciers because it's getting colder.
That's exactly. Finally, what they do is they admit Punjab's agricultural areas face a water shortage due to the late melting of the Himalayan glaciers. So, why would those Himalayan glaciers not be melting unless it's getting a little bit colder?
Well, we've noticed that here in Southern California. We've had the latest, coldest spring, summer. The first 2 years, we've been here 4 years now in Southern California. We're only 35 miles from the Mexican border here in North County, San Diego. And damn it was cold. Even for someone who was dual citizen and lived in Eastern Canada recently, it got cold. We only had summer the last week or so. Before that, we'd have all the seasons mixed up. We'd have 90-degree temperatures for a day or two in January, and otherwise, most of the time it was 8 to 15 degrees below normal, right up to about a week or so ago.
Yeah,
and now we got super high temperatures in the Midwest, and the weirdest thing is the UV index, and Dan's talked about this, is running at 11, 12, 13, which are going to kill crops. And also, over areas like deserts, it's going to increase desertification of not only America, but other countries. If you've got areas where the ozone layer is gone and you don't have any desert cover, it kills that desert cover. It decreases oxygen, so you don't have any ozone over it. You get further destruction of the desert cover. And this is something that can feed on itself. And so desertification is going to amplify. The desertification over the Gobi Desert in China, they're in a massive famine. 50-some years ago, during the time of the Communist Revolution, they had a massive famine, partly caused by bad administration, but also by climate problems. The climate problems now, the desertification, you can go to cities like Shenzhen and Beijing, and the dust clouds from the Gobi Desert are so large and so big, it covers thousands of miles. you can't see in front of your car 20 feet. People don't know this. They don't get any news from China to tell them that the people over there are on the verge with this giant economy and all our industry moved there. That's why they're buying up land in Central Africa, Australia, farms in America. The realtors are selling American farms to Chinese investors from the People's Republican Army because they're terrified about food security. That's what's going on.
Well, and I see stuff going on right now in the United States and the Northwest that nobody's talking about. Is between now and Sunday night, Mount Baker, Washington is forecast to receive up to 29 inches of snow. Between now and Sunday night, Mount Rainier, Washington is forecast to get a foot of snow. In Oregon, in Central Oregon, it's now the coldest. This week they've seen some of the coldest temperatures on record in at least 130 years. So, and then this week, our government comes out with what I consider lies, saying that we've had another record warmth.
Well, there's got to be a new term. Lies are not good, strong enough. How about obscenalize? How's that?
I just reported on
Obscenalize
that.
or obscenities are such bad lies or obscenities. They shouldn't even be spoken. Let me read this carbon rap from the school. And the carbon rap. This is kids and their teachers now have to do this in assembly all the time now for these kids in Sydney, Australia. Blackheath kids have something to say. Something is not right, and it won't go away. Our climate is changing, and we have to make a stand before the problem gets out of hand. So our message to you is really clear. Our planet's in danger, and that's our fear. Use less energy. That's the golden rule in your home and office, even your school. We can try to shop in our local town so we don't have to drive round and round. Our lights should only be on at night. Lights on when it's sunny? Question mark. Well, that's not right. When it's hot outside, the blinds go down. We don't need air conditioners blowing air around. All these machines just using up power, putting carbon into the atmosphere hour after hour, exclamation mark. We can tell our parents we don't have to use the car. We'll walk to school because it's not very far. Public transport's the way to go. It uses less petrol than a car, you know. Here's a story about a man named Fred. When it came to saving energy, he did not use his head. We have to say that he wasn't very bright because he turned on the light and left it on all night. He left it on all night? Question mark. Yeah, he left it on all night. So while he was sleeping, the carbon was increasing. And what did it mean? Well, the earth was a-heating. Not cool. This is in big capital letters. So to make sure that we're doing it right, the carbon cops will be joining the fight. We'll be out and about checking to see that we're using less electricity. At recess and lunch, we do leave the lights on. The classroom is empty, so that's not just wrong. We don't need the water boiling all the time, so put it on a timer. That'll do just fine. The carbon cops will be checking to see that we're using less electricity. Our carbon footprint will be small if we're clever and remember to be on the ball. Turn off the machines that we don't really need. We're doing our bit and we're taking the lead. Just remember that our planet is the only one we've got. We won't survive if it's really, really hot. The end.
Oh,
is that disgusting or what? This is kids. This is kids. This is children being mind manipulated, being abused. This is like a form of what we call environmental sexual mauling. They're mauling the minds of the young people to tell them a lie that says if you're going to save the planet by killing yourself. And again, yes, we can have more efficient cars. Yes, we can pollute less. Yes, we can do these other things. Yes, we can have alternative energy. But no, they suppress the patents for this. And by the way, they're owned by these large industrial giants, and they're suppressed purposely because they don't want to really reduce real pollution. They want to point to carbon and say it's our fault because you're breathing out carbon dioxide.
Well, we're back again. I'm not sure if it's lined up, but E&E News again, but this time out of the U.S. Details sketchy on radioactive leak at Ohio nuclear plant. Officials unsure how much leaked or for how long. I can tell you that it had not been an overly long time. Well, I'll read that one more time for you. Came out today. Details sketchy on radioactive leak at Ohio nuclear plant. Officials are unsure how much leaked or for how long. I can tell you that it had not been an overly long time. Okay, you're incompetent. Whoever said this, they're all fired. They're fired and thrown in jail. This is a lie. This is a lie right here. They don't know how long. Why not? Why wouldn't they know? They have computer systems. They have everything. Why wouldn't they know? Okay then. And plus, it was it wasn't even in Ohio. They were registering it in Indiana, northern Indiana, and Michigan. Obviously, it's long enough for it to go from Ohio to over there. Leading pro-nuclear senator. Even if Yucca Mountain were open today, we'd still need a second repository very quickly. Nuclear waste would fill it up very fast. Oh, New York Times, you must be listening to me. Even if Yucca Mountain were open today. That's right. So why don't we just go ahead and send it out into outer space, okay? We don't have any room for it. But even if we would have used it, because they got paid to use it, and did they fill it up all the way? I don't think so. I've heard a lot of controversy on that. Alrighty then. I think he's done. But alrighty then. We'll see if he comes back. But let me see here. Let's get rid of this. It's 5 days down. It's the eve of the weekend. Let's see if he comes back. If not, if he doesn't come back, you have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday tomorrow. And I'll see you again tomorrow, Saturday. But let's see. I want to see if he's going to sign off or go immediately into the first show. Oh, we're still waiting. I think that was it. But we'll give it one more minute or two. Oh, I'm not hearing anything. Hopefully the sound's not too bad. That's why I blank out the screen. Just go around and do something. You probably heard me in the background. I dropped the pan. Yeah. Earlier. That's what that was. Ran into the dog pan. Yeah. Wow. I think he's done. We're at 52 minutes. 90% sure he's done. Because this is going to be long commercials. Alrighty then. I guess I'll see you again tomorrow. You have a wonderful Saturday.
Your dream?
Yep, I think he's done. I'll wait one more second or two. I don't want you to miss anything.
Which eliminate?
We'll wait.
WE.
There was something else I wanted to talk about, but I don't have it in front of me. I wrote it down too, because I almost forgot to mention something, but I'll talk about it tomorrow.
Starts here. You don't. He's not going to make it.
Let's see what this is.
It doesn't matter if you vote for him. Welcome back, and so Robert, with these climate changes, and we are well into an ice age.
Oh, he's still going.
At the same time, by the way, in January 2014, with Dr. Easterbrook and Dr. Habibullah Mazatov and many others that 2 years ago stated we're heading into an ice age, the evidence is now mounting that these climate changes now added to the Macondo drill site 2 years ago, April, a little 2 years ago in a few months, have completely screwed up the world climate through the heating system of the loop current from the Gulf of Mexico, which is a pacemaker of the world climate and the oceanic currents. On top of that, now we have the upper atmosphere being eaten away by xenon-133 and radioiodine-131. The ultraviolet light is literally impinging, and we're moving into an area called the highly energetic area of the galaxy where cosmic background radiation is increasing rainfall, and rainfall is falling on the Earth, which is the first step in an ice age. The first step in an ice age is not temperature dropping. The first step is increased rainfall, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, it's all. I'm glad you brought that up because it is already cold enough to have an ice age right now.
Yes, right now.
It doesn't have
Just
to.
need more rainfall, and that's it. More rainfall in a couple more years, and we're deep in it. And we're not talking about decades either. 3 to 5 years of increasingly significant rainfall in northern latitudes, and we're going to start seeing the snowpack not disappear from the Midwest and the so-called growing belt of Canada, and you're going to start seeing massive crop failures. And the ozone layer can drop 65 to 75% for 1 hour in the middle of the day, and all your grassy plants, just like the biblical prescription that's telling us prophetically that when you see the fields white, that whiteness is going to occur when the ultraviolet light zaps the crop so badly. One day, you go in for lunch, come out and say, oh my gosh, how come the next 4 or 5 days you're seeing all the corn, all the wheat, it's just turning white. It's just dying right there. It's just, there's lots of water. I'm putting water on the crops. I'm irrigating. We put fertilizer on 2 weeks ago. Why is it dying? It's dying because it got radiation shock. That's what I'm telling you is going to happen, in combination with the crazy water patterns where we're having too much rain in some places and too little. And, of course, the water's decreasing because it's being locked up in glaciers.
Yeah, and you know, when you say it's being locked up in glaciers, you know, I see the IPCC, I see our government all talking about rising sea levels are going to rise 3 feet. Well, sea level, the last 2 years in a row, according to satellite measurements, sea levels have declined the last 2 years in a row. Their models are so wrong. Their models are not looking at what is happening in the real world. On my website, icagenow.info, I do have articles about declining sea level. If somebody just does a search on my website for falling sea levels, they'll come across it. Not a lot. I mean, I think last year they declined by 6 or 7 millimeters, and the year before by just 6 or 7 millimeters. Not much, but that's sure not the rising. And the reason is just exactly what you said. The reason they're declining is because snow levels are beginning to accumulate. And as you also said, it's cold enough right now. That's not my words. That came from Dr. Morris Ewing. He was head of the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory back in the 1970s. He said that it's cold enough right now to have an ice age. All we need is more moisture. Well, we're getting it. We're getting it right now. And if that moisture starts falling in the winter, or if that moisture starts falling when our skies have been cooled by above water volcanic activity, then we've got the exact recipe for an ice age.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I want to go back to a timeline and get your response and Ann's on this. This is the timeline that I see happening. The next major burp, and we had one that we went back through Alexander Higgins' website, through E&E News and other sources, including on the ground, that back in April, it was a massive burp of radiation from Fukushima. That radiation, by the way, is eating away at the ozone layer. That's part of the reason why we're seeing record levels of 12 plus ultraviolet light over midday between 11 and 3 o'clock over cities like Phoenix and Nevada and over Mexico City up to 13 right now. This is not normal. People need to realize normal isn't normal anymore. And one of the articles that I'm looking at here is this, which will clap first, the economy or the SPF 4? Here's what's going to happen. It doesn't need a collapse. You don't need to have it fall over. You just need a massive radiation release. And the radiation release doesn't require zirconium fire or doesn't require the corium to hit the groundwater table and have a hydrogen-generated hydrogen explosion or a transient nuclear explosion called a dirty bomb explosion because it goes hypercritical and you have enough corium like a lava lamp to explode. The next step is going to be these 1,535 fuel rod assemblies in Cooling Pool 4. That's only one of 7 major sites of stored fuel on there. It's so radioactive now, the 2 pumps that failed cannot be replaced. They can't get in there because even if you're an idiot and you're going to commit suicide, when you get in there, you won't even remember what day of the week is, whether or not you need to go to the bathroom right now or what your name is.
Oh.
So what's going to happen is Japan is going to end up with a massive radiation release. John has reports that on the ground they're getting ready in Japan for massive evacuation of Tokyo. Kyoto has already offered to be the alternate capital of Tokyo. The Japanese have already gone down to Kerala, India, and are actually buying up land like crazy. They're putting in rice crops in northern Australia. The Japanese know they're toast. They're just a different culture, so they're not going to make big, flashy comments like Americans. The Japanese women have got more cojones than these damn Japanese men that are basically trying to kiss the butts of their bosses. They'd rather die of kiroshi, which is working their butt off, or lying, drinking too much sake, trying with a smirky face on, trying to lie to us and tell us that TEPCO is keeping it in its level and there's no problem, there's no neutron annealing, it's not going to fall over. So Japan this summer, hot summer, Japanese radiation. By late summer, early fall, European collapse. Emergency crisis. In the midst of it, we'll try to have Mr. Obama with his printing presses running at a racing, and you can see a kind of a comic picture of Obama going down below the printing presses underneath the U.S. printing office and saying, how the printing press is going, Ben? And Ben says, they're pretty hot. We're putting water on them because they're overheating, Obama. And he says, well, we need another $1 trillion a minute. How's that? And Ben says, if I do $1 trillion, the whole thing could blow. He says, well, I'm sorry, we got to do it anyway. Just put more water on it and keep printing. And now, while he's printing, by the way, what they're going to do is, this is all by design. You're going to see a bank holiday by the early fall, probably by October, which is always a month when bad things happen, which is right before the election. And during all this conundrum, we have Mitt Romney sitting there smirking with his Asperger's, not either committing to the Mormon church to tell him that he's going to really be a conservative Mormon, or to the Christian background. So he's not going to have support below the Mason-Dixon line, as John Moore said. So we will have, no, even if you desire to vote for Romney because you think, well, we got to vote for the lesser of two evils. No, voting for the lesser of two evil means you still have evil. But don't think he's lesser. Don't think he's lesser because he's kissing the butt trying to be the best bad boy you can imagine. He's worked for Bain Capital, which is a Mossad operation, for 20 years. You have to understand who Mitt Romney is. He's not even a conservative Mormon. Okay? So what's going to happen, even if you voted for him, the election will be contested. I predict it will be contesting it probably for about 3 or 4 weeks. They'll come out and say the popular vote center goes to Obama. There'll be people trying to remove Obama the first year or two from the voter roll, saying he should have never been on this voter roll for this state and that state. And the personhood issue, which Donald Trump brought up to the embarrassment of his candidate, Mitt Romney, and Trump, sometimes actually he shines, okay? Sometimes Trump is there. Despite his crazy hair, he has some cojones. He'll actually make statements that say, I know why you're successful in business, even though you screwed up a pile of times, is because you're willing to tell the truth, in spite of it. So what do you think? I don't think that Obama he's going to slide in again, because the Christian right won't get their act together. Conservatives won't. They take the good things out of Ron Paul, and there are some good things about bringing back money here. They need to realize we need to be our brother's keeper. We need to have paid for education. We need to have infrastructure. We need to stop austerity fascism, which is part of the financial side of libertarianism, which I disagree with strongly, and it's not communism. I don't believe in socialism or big government. I think we need to have national certification through boards and no state licensure whatsoever. We need to have private property where we have limited taxes. We need to have infrastructure taken care of. We have to stop these crazy pensions. We have two classes of citizens, where we recently had a vote in San Diego County here to keep bring back the pensions, which are way out of line, and the benefits, where the regular working staff is basically hardly able to keep food on this table, and people are getting massive pensions here in California where it's just a pork barreling. It's just ridiculous. So thank God they had the sense to pull back. Your comments, Robert and Dan?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with that last part. I'm still hopeful that Romney is going to do better than Obama, but I do have to...
He hasn't got a hope and a prayer until he does two things. He repents before the Mormon church, his policies, and the Christian background, and if you don't have your base, he's not going to make it. And he has a chance. He can repent. We can pray for him. He has this massive appearance of light over his head that says, oh my gosh, I've been a bad Mormon. I haven't even appealed to the conservative right and the personhood issues. And don't smirk and sit in the camera with your Asperger's and think you're going to get elected unless you actually speak to the conservatives, and that means don't be there ready to do war just because it's the right thing to do for the ultra-right-wing hawks in the Republican Party. You've got to speak to your base if you want to get elected.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson.
Well, that's it for tonight. Signing off. You have a wonderful Saturday. I'll see you again tomorrow. 5 days down. We made it. Alrighty then. See you tomorrow.